Alright, what's going on, guys? So far, these last few months as a From Software fan have been some of the most painful as we eagerly await the Game Awards and any news whatsoever about Elden Ring DLC. But in this time of patience, one thing that has kept us occupied is the rumor about From Software's next game, which is currently going by the name Spellbound. Now, I'm sure you've all at least heard about this. This is by far one of the most impressive leaks we've seen that doesn't come with at least some concrete proof of its existence, since all we've had to work with so far are 4chan posts and then some follow-ups over on Reddit, as well as one poor quality image in an age where AI art is taking over. And so this has left us questioning, with no real way to disprove it, in a history of From Software's games that have leaked in this exact same fashion. So as it stands, we're left waiting for proof or for the leakers to discredit themselves somehow. But the community has been at work, eagerly trying to get to the bottom of this, and something very interesting has just been discovered. So today we're going to talk about this new detail that can make or break this rumor, but is also a topic we had all forgotten about in the hype leading up to Elden Ring. So I'm very curious to hear what y'all think about this. But as we get into that today, if you want to stay up to date on all things Elden Ring, From Software, and Souls-likes, and enjoy the lore and discussion around these games, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and now let's get into it. A long while ago, after it was revealed that Elden Ring was going to be written by Miyazaki and George R.R. Martin, everyone was very curious about what this was going to look like when translated into game form. But when this news came out, it took over the internet for a while, catching the attention of not only the fans but other authors as well, one of which was Brandon Sanderson, who is at the top of the most prominent fantasy authors right now, and he's famous for works such as the Stormlight Archives and Mistborn. Now, there's been a bit of a joking rivalry between Martin and Sanderson, so when the Elden Ring news came out, Sanderson joked on a panel that From Software would rather work with someone who spends his days blogging about the NFL than the person who's been playing their game since Kingsfield. And he has been a longtime fan of the Souls series and From Software's work, and expressed how much he wanted to work with From Software. So it was interesting that after Elden Ring came out, in one of his streams he unboxed a package from Bandai Namco with lots of Elden Ring goodies, including a sword. And while he was opening this, one of the other people mentioned off in the background about might this be their apology for not working with you, to which he responded, "They are interested in perhaps doing something together. I am as well. I actually have a pitch for them in the back of my head, so I may have to send them my pitch and see what they think." Now, this was a little over a year ago, right after the release of Elden Ring, and we haven't had confirmation one way or the other that they actually started working together. But it's when we take a look at the Spellbound leak, things start to look a whole lot like Brandon Sanderson's work. According to these unverified leakers, Spellbound is From Software's next major title, due to be released in 2025. The game will be centered around a magic system with lots of different types of magic, and will not follow the Souls formula exactly, but is described as more of a spin-off. The game will take place in a Victorian-esque setting in a city called Kinwraith, with one massive castle that will be the vast majority of the map, and it will have open-world areas along the outside with lots of rivers, villages, and waterways. And we then have this one image of a character that's in pretty poor quality with blue Victorian robes and a lamp and some trails of blue magic behind him. Now, the leak has come from two different leakers who I've talked to and have remained consistent in their story since the beginning, although they have had minor disagreements with each other as they seem to have gotten different source material for their leaks. Now, if you want some really deep details on the specifics of the game, aside from that broad description I just gave, check out my earlier videos about it. Now, when all these leaks came out, we took a lot of time to discuss them in the channel Discord server, and quite a lot of revelations were made, specifically by the user Rockkicker, who noticed a lot of stark similarities between the Spellbound leaks and some of Brandon Sanderson's work. And we'll start off with the setting. Sanderson's book Mistborn takes place in Luthadel, with the central castle you can see by that red dot on the map called Creedic Shaw. Now, I haven't read Mistborn, I do plan to, but according to Rockkicker, the vast majority of the first book takes place in this castle. And even just looking at this map, we can notice that the concept is very similar to the Spellbound leak. All the roads lead back to the central castle, and there is a big waterway running through it, as well as districts outside. Now, if we're being honest with ourselves, you could probably find a million fantasy settings with this same concept. The descriptions in the book do paint a bit of a Victorian era, but the leakers did say they obtained a picture of a map, so it's going to be interesting to see if they ever do reveal that, how similar it looks to this one. But now let's move on to the characters. The Spellbound Leak shows a young man in blue Victorian robes, very ornate and decorated, with misty blue magic behind him. Now take a look at this image from the Stormlight archives, and it is hard to deny the similarities here. Young men in blue Victorian robes that are finely decorated with misty blue magic behind them. The only thing these guys are missing is a hat. Now I will say these have white trim while the Spellbound Leak has gold, but if you showed me these images side by side, I would think they were from the same source material, at least when it comes to the designs. Even the magic is the exact same hue. I would go so far as to say the chances of the character in the Spellbound Leak not being inspired by Kaladin from Stormlight Archives are zero. There are just way too many similarities here for that not to be the case. There's just no way this is a coincidence. Now we're gonna come back to this, but let's talk about the premise of the game in general. A magic system based Souls-like is exactly the kind of thing Brandon Sanderson would create. I've watched a lot of his lectures in preparation for writing my own novels, which let me plug that real quick, but one thing he talks about a lot are how he loves to create magic systems. In fact, he has a whole series of laws on how to create a good magic system. So if Sanderson and FromSoftware were to work together, a game about magic is the exact kind of thing they would create. However, Brandon Sanderson has not been mentioned at all in any of the Spellbound leaks. Now, is it possible that FromSoftware was referencing his work in creating Spellbound? If it is real, perhaps. But I would have to think that if Brandon Sanderson saw this game came out and he wasn't part of the team, he would be extremely upset. When Elden Ring leaked way back in the day, and the rumor first came out that FromSoftware and Martin were going to be working together, it was around the time the Game of Thrones hype was at its peak, and everyone laughed and said, yeah right, that's never gonna happen, this is just somebody making it up to piggyback off the success of the TV show. And it's hard not to have a similar reaction when seeing all of this, and that's because of a few points of contention. While we did establish that FromSoftware and Brandon Sanderson were in talks as of a year ago, the leak claims that this game has been in development since 2021. An entire year before these talks happened. That's not a very long development cycle at all. Now, granted, they did say this game would be smaller than Elden Ring, and Brandon Sanderson is known to work very fast, a heck of a lot faster than George R.R. Martin, but I just don't see them getting Brandon on to make a world and then having the game out a little over 2 years later. There's just no way. So we're faced with a few possibilities here. Number one, whoever these leakers are getting their information from has way too much time on their hands and is creating a fake leak based off Brandon Sanderson's work, or it is these two leakers themselves working together to create this fake leak. But I do have to say, if that is the case, this is the best fake I've ever seen. But the other possibility is that the game is real, FromSoftware is making it without Brandon Sanderson, and were directly inspired by his work. Because let's be honest, FromSoftware never hides their inspiration very well. We can look at Berserk or Magic the Gathering, which literally have perfect copies of things from the source material put into their games. But again, I can't imagine that would make Brandon Sanderson very happy. But the third possibility, and in my opinion the most unlikely, is that he is on board to make the game, it is real, and it's going from concept to gold in under 3 years. And if that is the case, then this may be the most efficient game development I've ever seen. So to put a bow on all of this and wrap it up, in my opinion, it's impossible to deny the similarities between Spellbound and Brandon Sanderson's work. And you can view this in a number of ways, either as adding credibility to the game's existence and Brandon Sanderson being a part of the project, or you can see it as a red flag and likely where whoever created this leak got their ideas from. So I'm really curious to see what y'all have to say about this. But anyways though, that is gonna pretty much do it for the video today. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like on it and subscribe if you're new around here. But with all that, I will catch you in the next one.